it's Heather from Geek Girls. Thanks for joining us today. This is Logan, by the way, who's also decided to join us today for our video. Say hello, Logan. No? Okay. Today I thought I would just talk about my 9 bits of advice that I would give to new pagans or witches. I tried to go for 10, but I would have had to force the 10th one, so I thought I'd just go for the 9 that I could actually think of and see how we go. These are, just to start with a disclaimer, these are just my personal views. If you don't agree with anything, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I've missed anything out, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation with you about it. But ultimately what I would say, if you are new especially, take whatever resonates from what I say and then just leave the rest. This is just my view. You are under no obligation to follow what I say or to believe in what I say. Okay, so let's just get straight on it. So tip number 1, read. Read, read, read. Read a bit more, and then when you think you're done reading, read something else. And don't just read pagan books. Read mythology, read psychology, read philosophy, lots of ologies, ophologies, things ending in Y's, folklore, herb lore, history, biology, no, anything, medicinal books, anything that you can get your hands on that in some way you feel like can add to your beliefs or your path. Read it. Read a lot. Read everything. You can never read too much. And if there's a book that someone says, this book by this person is rubbish, don't read it, especially read that one. Because every book has something in it that you can learn or that you can take away from it. Even if what you take away from it is that person is talking a load of rubbish and I genuinely have no connection to what they're saying whatsoever, you've still learned something. So read everything. And my second piece of advice, so advice number 2, which kind of goes on from my first piece of advice, is do ensure that you're reading critically. So it's all very well to just read stuff, but you need to be reading that stuff critically. So you need to be reading it slowly, you need to be taking notes, you need to be comparing it to other things that you've read. You need to be taking time out to actually think about what you've read, meditate and contemplate on what you've read, and really feel it. Don't feel it in here, don't feel it in here. Really feel in your gut if this is something that you connect with or you don't connect with. If it's something that you just don't connect with, then you're okay to just abandon that. But if there are things that you don't connect with, but that seems to be coming up a lot, and for whatever reason you think, I don't like that, or, you know, it doesn't feel right to me, I would urge you to spend some more time contemplating that and figuring out why. What is it about that you don't like, or you don't feel comfortable, or you don't connect with? Because, again, with the same with reading crappy books, one of the ways that we learn is by figuring out why we don't like something as much as why we do. So that would be my advice. Advice number 3, I'm sorry, that's a motorbike, I do apologise. Advice number 3 is learn to ground, centre and meditate. Even if you never do anything else, those are 3 things that I absolutely think that you should do. Grounding, centering, meditating. These are skills that will not only aid you on your spiritual witchy journey, but will just aid you in everyday life. When things get a bit stressful, when things get a bit hard, when we start to find ourselves getting a bit anxious or a bit het up or overly angry or, you know, whatever, it's handy to have the ability to be able to ground, center, and to be able to take a few minutes out to meditate, or take time out in your day to meditate. And the more you do it, the quicker you do it. So the meditation, not so much, you know, the more you can meditate, the better generally, but the more you practice grounding and centering, the quicker you'll be able to do it, until you get to a point where you just have to think about grounding and centering, and it takes seconds. And those are great skills to have. And as someone who suffers from social anxiety, let me tell you, grounding and centering, absolutely good skills to have just in everyday life. So if you do nothing else, learn those skills. Tip number 4, don't get too caught up in labels. One of the things that I notice around the pagan world, particularly in Facebook groups and things, more so in forums, but I don't really visit forums anymore and I don't know how active they are, is new people saying, I don't know what path I'm on. These are the things I believe in. What's my label? What am I? What am I called? What's my label? What's the name of my path? What would you say that I am? And there's this real drive in human nature to be able to label ourselves and fit into boxes. Now, don't get me wrong, labels are valuable. If I tell you I'm an eclectic pagan witch with a focus on the psycho-spiritual, it gives you some idea of who I am and what I believe in. Not a lot, but it gives you some idea. And if you're also a pagan, we at least know that we're starting with very similar language and a very reasonably similar paradigm, although saying that they could be completely different, but let's not overcomplicate things. If I tell you I'm a Christian, again, you get an understanding, at least on a basic level, of the paradigm that I'm coming from and the language that I'm likely to use. So labels are useful, but they're not the be-all and end-all. And I go to quite a few different local moots in my area, and one of the things that people always ask you when they meet you for the first time is, what's your path, or what path are you on? Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, I haven't figured that out yet. Lots of people haven't figured it out yet, and I'll tell you something else, it will probably change anyway. The path that I'm on now and where I am now is nothing like where I was 18 years ago when I first started. The labels I use now are nothing like the labels I used 18 years ago when I first started. It will change. You will grow. It will change. You will be asked that question again in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time, and the answer will be different. So don't worry too much about it. Tip number 5, don't be afraid to try stuff out and don't be afraid to take risks. You don't have to know everything before you do anything. The best way to learn is to experience. I can tell you what raising energy feels like for me. It won't mean anything to you because A, you're still only knowing it, you're not understanding it. And B, what raising energy feels like for me is probably not what raising energy feels like for you. I know what spells, what types of spells work best for me, and I know that through trial and error and experience. You are only going to know that through trial and error and experience. I know what it feels like when I cast a circle. I know what it feels like when I call in the elements. I know what those elements feel like. I recognise the change in the energy. I know what it feels like for me when I ground. I know what it feels like for me when I centre myself. I know what it feels like when I work with my chakras. I know what it feels like when my chakras are unaligned or out of balance or too open or not open enough. And I know that because I practice. It's trial, it's error, it's experience, and you just have to go out there and you have to try. And I absolutely get that feeling that you need to know everything beforehand. One of the reasons it's taken me so long to start my YouTube channel is because I am a perfectionist and I wanted it to be perfect, and I wanted to spend all this time studying how other people do it and looking at what equipment I might need and reading about editing software and how to make thumbnails and blah 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 blah. And all the time that I was reading all this stuff and I was studying all this stuff, I wasn't actually doing anything. And eventually I just had to go, you know what, just do it. spellcraft particularly, ritual stuff particularly, is exactly the same. You just have to do it. The only way you are ever going to really learn is to do. It's just, you know, that you just have to do it. Tip number 6. Get a journal, write everything down. Don't care too much about what it looks like. At least not right now. I mean, I've been through hundreds of notepads with, you know, things dotted about all over the place. A lot of my notepads, a lot of my book of shadows aren't really books of shadows at all. They're just random bits of information, random notes on meditations, random notes on spells that I've tried. I write everything down because I then can go back and look at it and go, you know, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can I change? What did I do here? What do I think might be better if I did it this way or that way? Or, you know, this meditation, I meditated about a fox here, and then a fox turned up in this meditation as well, and then another one in here. What is this fox? Why does he keep turning up in all my meditations? What do I need to look at there? It's so much more important to get things down on paper than it is to make them pretty. Doesn't matter how pretty they are. If you wait 6 months to write down that ritual, if you wait 6 hours to write down that ritual, chances are you're not going to remember everything. So just write stuff down. Get a journal, write it down. If you then want to transfer it into a nice, pretty Book of Shadows or grimoire or Book of Mirrors or whatever people are calling them nowadays, fine, you can do that. You can take time out and you can make that a ritual of itself, but just get a journal, get a notebook, and just write stuff down. Tip number 7. Don't compare yourself to others, and remember that no one starts out an expert. No one. No one starts out knowing anything. We all started somewhere. Every single one of us had to start somewhere. We had to start from the beginning, if you like. Don't look at Joe Blogs, your friend that you've met on Facebook, who talks about, you know, having their own personal frickin' phone to their gods, or about this really great, amazing ritual that they did the night before where all this stuff happened, and or about their amazing psychic abilities, or blah, blah, blah. Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody has different skills and experiences. You are you. You're not anyone else. You're just you. And that would be my tip number... What number am I on? Tip number 8. Don't worry about what anyone else is doing. So don't compare yourself to what anyone else is doing, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Just do you. You are you. You are unique. Your path will be unique. Everything that you do will be different than anything that anybody else does. Even if you believe exactly the same thing as your best mate, their path is still going to be different to yours because they are not you. So don't worry about what other people are doing. Just do you. Tip number 9, take advantage of the pagan community. When I started, there was no YouTube, there was no Facebook, there was Yahoo groups, there was AIM, and there was ICQ, which had would chat groups online. There was very minimal websites and information, and it wasn't easy to have real-time conversations with other pagans. But I managed, and I joined those groups. I joined different Yahoo groups. I joined different chat rooms, spent time on different chat rooms. When forums became a thing, I joined forums. I went to my local moot and met in real life people that I could work with. And I asked questions. I, shared my experience and went, I've done this and this is what's happened. Is that normal? Has anybody else felt the same? I've read this thing and I don't really understand it. This is what I think it means. But, does anybody else have another opinion or another view that I'm not seeing? I started going to discussion groups and study groups, and, I asked questions of the pagan community. There are experts. They're not experts in everything, but there are people who know their shit, and you should absolutely take advantage of that. And I'm not saying people owe you their experience. People have boundaries and they have their right to express their boundaries and put their boundaries in place. But most people want to help. They want to answer your questions. They want to see you succeed and move along in your path and develop. You might get people who will look down their nose at you and will behave very condescendingly and a bit shittily about you asking these questions and act like you're an idiot because you're asking this question. But you know what? Those people are dicks. They're dicks. They have their own issues that have got nothing to do with you, that makes them feel like they need to be superior in some way, and they need to look down their nose at anybody who doesn't know what they know. X amount of years ago, they didn't know what they know. They had to learn it. And if they're making you feel bad for being new, it's because they're a dick. So just move on from those people. Don't take it personally. It's about them. It's nothing to do with you. So just move on from those people. And my final tip, and probably my biggest tip, is just have fun with it. There is a time and a place for reverence and seriousness, and I'm not saying that you should treat it frivolously. There is a difference between having fun and being frivolous, but this is supposed to enhance your life. It's supposed to make your life better. That's why we all get involved in some kind of religious, spiritual, magical practice, because we want to make our lives better. We want to have some kind of control over our lives and how we feel about them. If it's not fun, if you're not enjoying yourself, if it just all feels very scary and very serious and very, overwhelming, then what the fuck is the point? This is meant to be a good thing, so have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. Do not take yourself too seriously. And don't take other people too seriously. They may take themselves seriously, but those are the people that it's okay to laugh at, in my opinion. But just have fun. I don't take myself seriously. A lot of the time, I'm taking the mick out of myself. I will quite often be the first to hold my hands up and laugh at myself. And, if you can't laugh at yourself, give me a call, I'll laugh at you, I don't mind. Seriously, have fun. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take it too seriously. Just enjoy it for what it is. It's a journey. Enjoy the journey. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say. So, thanks for watching again, and I will see you soon. As I say, if you do want to share any of your own ideas, if you want to ask me any questions at all, if you want to just disagree with me, if you want to just tell me I'm chatting shit, that's fine. Use the comments, let's have a conversation. Otherwise, I will catch up with you next time. Take care, lots of love, bye bye.